We are refugees and we live here. Hear our voices to the world. This is a call from refugees in Libya. Refugees are actually traveling alongside migrants through dangerous routes like Libya towards Europe. Up to 90% of people crossing the Mediterranean Sea to Europe depart from Libya. According to the UN Refugees UNHCR report, Libya also has about half a million refugees and asylum seekers who are registered with the UN refugees. But what role is actually UNHCR doing in its mandate of protecting refugees? Refugees are, however, crying out for protection, evacuation. As I said, we are refugees. We live here, and the world needs to come to their aid. You're watching the Nyimas Bantaba. My name is Nyima Jadama. Today with me in the studio, I'll be talking to Azeb, and actually her colleague hasn't arrived yet. Hopefully, we will have him join us. He traveled all the way from Libya to join us for this talk show. David is actually on his way, but hopefully we will have him. Thank you for joining us, Azeb.
Thank you.
Azeb ist Eritreerin, die in Deutschland geboren und ausgewachsen ist. Sie ist Aktivistin bei United for Refugees und aktiv in Solidarity's Bündnis Solidarity with Refugees in Libyen. First of all, you are active in this solidarity group, Refugees in Libya. Tell us, how does this come about?
Thank you for inviting us and for giving a platform to the voices of refugees in Libya. Hope that Yambio will join us because he is actually one of the founders of the self-organized protest movement Refugees in Libya. I'm a member in the alliance, transnational alliance. These are different individuals and organizations that came together to amplify the voices and the demands of refugees in Libya. This alliance is called Solidarity with Refugees in Libya. We have people based in Germany, we have people based in Belgium, in UK, in Italy. There are people that are working in search and rescue organizations such as Mediterranean or Alarm Phone, other organizations such as Borderline Europe. And me, I'm a member, as you just said, of United for Eritrea. So very different people with different backgrounds came together because we care for this cause for different reasons. For me personally, it's because I'm Eritrean. And a lot of our people are affected by this violence in Libya. They come through Libya for many years. We Eritreans in the diaspora have been receiving calls where our family members are being tortured and they're crying for their life and they are extorting money from us. They are asking us to pay ransoms for the release of our loved ones. So we know of these problems very well and for many years. And yeah, I'm glad that I found this group of people where we came together and we work very closely with the people of the protest movement Refugees in Libya, and we try to amplify their voices and demands here in Europe and beyond.
Speaking of the demand, the Solidarity Group has also few demands that they've put in place, actually targeting the UN refugees. And the demands among them is the evacuation of the refugees in Libya to safe countries. That refugees are fairly treated by UNHCR. Another question of, okay, fairly treated, are they not fairly treated? I would like to know about this. And as well, abolish the EU funding of Libyan coast guards and migrants detention centers. Why such a demand? And what kind of fairness are we talking about from UNHCR?
Yeah, these are the... You just summarized the seven main demands of refugees in Libya that they have formulated in their manifesto, which you can also find on the website of Refugees in Libya, that is refugiesinlibya.org. You find the manifesto, and yeah, so the main demand is evacuation to countries of safety because Libya is not safe. because in Libya we have the worst kind of atrocities, human rights violations, crimes against humanity, actually, war crimes that migrants and refugees have to deal with, have to face. So that's why the main demand is evacuation to safe countries, because it is not safe, and it's also not safe country for disembarkation, meaning the EU, so one of the demands is also that the EU should stop funding the so-called Libyan Coast Guard. They put a lot of money and equipment into this. They are actually the ones that established this in the first place. So you have a bunch of militias wearing these uniforms, and what they do is they intercept the migrant boats. They take the people back to the Libyan shores, which is actually against international law, because it's not a safe harbor for disembarkation for people in distress. It's not a safe country. So that in itself is already against international laws. And then they take them to detention centers, detention or torture camps. We can almost, we can call them that. People are being tortured there. Families are being extorted for ransoms. There's reports, widespread reports of sexualized violence against women, also men. There's even children and babies in these detention camps. So it's like really the worst kind of violence you can imagine that people have to endure there. And it has been going on for many years. Another of the demands that you just mentioned concerns UNHCR. So the refugees in Libya protest movement, what they did when they formed, that was in 2021 in October. They came together in response to violent raids that were done by the security forces in Libya. They went to this neighborhood in Tripoli where mainly migrants and refugees live, and they detained 5,000 people, saying that they're criminals, I don't know, drug dealers or prostitution, all kinds of accusations, and put them in jail. And then a few days later, there was a riot broke out in one of these detention camps, and a lot of people managed to flee. They got out, and they gathered, thousands of them gathered in front of the UNHCR office. Why? Because they are refugees and they are seeking protection, and this is the UN organization whose mandate it is to protect them, right? So they were protesting more than 3 months in front of this office. And they didn't really respond to any of their demands. They were asking them to disperse, to go away, and they can only help the most vulnerable. They always use this term, the most vulnerable. And also in Libya, they have this restriction that is by the authorities that they can, UNHCR can only register people from 9 nationalities.
Okay.
And this is like an arbitrary thing that the Libyan authorities are saying you can only register those people. So if you're not from one of these 9 nationalities, you cannot even register. But even if you are registered, we have many people that have been registered for years and they are waiting for any kind of support, protection, resettlement, evacuation, and nothing happens, right? So then the question is, why is UNHCR even there if it cannot really hold up its mandate? Then it should maybe not be there.
Yeah, good question. Why are they there when they cannot uphold to their mandates? From what you just mentioned, it's like there is also this classism and status of between asylum seekers within the UNHCR system. Of course, I know within the asylum camp, Aufnahmerichtung and so on, you could have this classism and status of refugees. Okay, we are dealing with the most vulnerable and so on, but as well within UNHCR, that's a big surprise. However, last year in December, you guys did a protest. The movement did a protest in front of the UNHCR Geneva office, where the High Commissioner sits, actually, and then also had a consultation meeting with the UNHCR Berlin office. And I was wondering, like, what was exactly what you guys talked about after the protest, and what outcome? Did you guys have anything come out of the discussion?
So yeah, you are referring to our Unfair campaign. The Unfair campaign was born out of a working group inside of the Alliance Solidarity with Refugees in Libya, where we work very closely with refugees in Libya, and the idea was to bring their protest that they were doing in Tripoli until it was violently dismantled, the protest camp that they had there, because UNHCR in Tripoli, at some point, they just closed their office, and within 2 days, security forces came in, raided the camp, burned down the camp, and took more than 600 of the protesters were arrested. Still, today, more than 250 are arrested just for standing up for their rights, for raising their voices. So the idea was to bring the protest from Tripoli to the headquarters in Geneva. And this is something that we as the Solidarity Alliance, because we are based in Europe, we can do that. This is how we can amplify their voices and demands. So we did 2 days of protest. The first day was a press conference and protest in front of the head office. And then we managed to get a short meeting with one of the person's representatives there. So Yambio David, one of the founders and speakers of Refugees in Libya, who might still join us at some point. He went for the discussion with this person, and yeah, he explained the situation, right? And the one good thing that came out of it, first of all, we have to acknowledge that it's already a win that they accepted to sit down and to discuss. And they also acknowledged all of these things that refugees in Libya are criticizing about the agency, right? They acknowledged this. So this is already one step. They didn't make any big promises that they will improve things. They just said, we are aware there are problems. But yeah, so this was a first step, but we are, of course, planning to continue the pressure. But we are also hoping it's not only like pressuring UNHCR, it's also like reminding them of their mandate, hoping that they will come back to their, I don't want to say come back to their senses, but it seems more and more that they have become an instrument of the EU externalization instead of holding up their mandate and providing the protection, which is what they're supposed to do. So we're still hoping for that. We're hoping to become partners. We're hoping that they will acknowledge refugees in Libya as equal partners, not speak about refugees, but speak with refugees, sit on the table with them, invite them to relevant meetings, conferences, when there's any discussions about migration. People that are affected should be sitting at the table.
Yeah. We call it meaningful refugee participation. People affected should be on the table as well. So I was actually going to call David, Yambio on here, but hence he's not here. I'll just put the question to you. At the Geneva protests, one of the statements that he and many of others made while they were there was, I am here representing the many refugees locked up in Libyan camps, and as well those unfairly treated by UNHCR, even though registered with them as a victim he was. I was thinking, did you had any conversation with a victim of such unfairly treated or those that are already locked up? What are the reactions of them, and how did UNHCR react to this? Because this is emotional. I mean, we have people locked up in camps, and people are sitting on the air conditions and working, speaking on behalf of them, without even not knowing really what they're going through.
Yeah, I have spoken with people who have been in detention camps and also people who are outside of detention camps. And yeah, they are all very disappointed because they put a lot of hopes in this institution that is there to protect them. But I have one of the persons from Refugees in Libya, one of the comrades, he has a problem with his sight and he needs glasses, and it's been years that he asked for that, and even the most basic kind of support, they don't get it. And also people, if they want to register, they go there in front of the office and then they send them away, or they have to wait like for a really long time. They only get an appointment in a few months. They don't get the protection that they need in this time. So the services are slow, are not reliable, and And then those people that are in the detention camps, of course, UNHCR Libya managed to release some, yeah, but still we are talking of, recently there was a report by IOM, and they were saying around 5,000 migrants, refugees are currently in these detention centers in Libya, locked up. And this is just like the tip of the iceberg, because there are also a lot of detention camps that are not official detention camps, you know, that are run by some militia, like in some backyard, and those numbers, we don't have them.
Yeah, interesting. So actually, because we try to have the side of UNHCR as well to join us to see their stand. We've written to both the Geneva office, where the High Commissioner sits in, as well the Berlin office. So the Berlin office wrote to us, they're interested to join. Actually, they would have, but then they put to us that it is not in their vicinity or jurisdiction, because they felt it's more of the Libyan office or the Geneva office that would talk. And then I would read a quote from the UNHCR part from the senior protection assistant, and it reads, "Dear Nyima, unfortunately we cannot join the interview on Friday as concerns the solidarity movement on refugees in Libya. Kindly note that activists of the movement approached UNHCR on several occasions in the past. UNHCR spoke with representatives of the movement in several countries, including at UNHCR headquarters in Geneva and its country office in Berlin, to hear their concerns and explain the work that we are doing, as well as UNHCR position on issues raised by the movement. However, UNHCR Germany and the colleagues working in our office do not have any practical experience with regard to the situation of refugees in Libya, and we are therefore not in a position to discuss aspects and provide first-hand information in this respect." I hope this information is useful. Please. Yes, so that is actually the site of the UNHCR Germany or Berlin office. What is your reaction to this? It's actually sad, but then, I don't know, what do you think?
So, yeah, we have spoken to the Berlin office of UNHCR, representing UNHCR Germany.
Yeah.
We had a really good conversation, a very good exchange. And of course, when it comes to refugees based in Libya currently, and also, yeah, the work of the local office there, they cannot, they don't have a lot of influence there, right? Because they are focusing on Germany. But what they could do is what I think is also something that we like to continue the conversation and speak about that. We already learned that the current government provided some hundreds of resettlement places for refugees from Libya, not directly from Libya, but those that were evacuated to Niger, and from Niger they can be resettled to Germany. This is something that has been done in recent years. We are currently looking into the numbers and of course hoping that we can increase these numbers, because like a few hundred is definitely, I think, not enough. I think we need a good cooperation with UNHCR also here in Germany to push for more places, and not only more places, resettlement places to Germany, because of course Germany, as one of the strongest EU member countries, like of course all the money that goes to Libya and that sustains this violent environment for the migrants and refugees, Germany is responsible for that, and that's why I think they have to also put some effort into relieving this situation of refugees and migrants by increasing resettlement numbers, or also the process for the resettlements by making it more transparent on the one hand, and also more effective.
More effective. Germany is a big player when it comes to refugee issues and as well on resettlement, so I believe they could do more. And I hope that your engagement with them would continue, and it will be fruitful in one way or the other. I look forward to that. Let's talk about the political manifesto that you guys put forward. I don't know, I'm not sure if you had targeted your signatories. First, tell us about the objective of this political manifesto and how many signatories are you looking forward to? Did you have the target so far?
So the manifesto was written in the beginning of the protest in October 2021 by refugees in Libya. What's really remarkable about this manifesto and also about these protests, these particular protests, is that because there have been protests in the past, refugees and migrants have always shown resistance against this violence and against this, basically the consequences of the border regime that they are experiencing there for many years. But for this movement, what's special about it is that it's very different nationalities. It's not just people from one specific nationality that are organizing together, like we've seen in the past, Eritrean refugees organizing together. But then what they would put out, the messages they would put out to the world would be in Tigrinya, so it's not very accessible, only the diaspora communities can understand. And in this case, they have very vocal, articulate speakers that speak English, that bring the message out. They come together, people from 11 or more different nationalities set together, they form something like a council, and they discuss together what are the most important demands and brought this manifesto, which has been signed by many organizations. I have to say I'm not currently up to date about the exact number, but you can find that also on the website. I would urge you to look into it because these demands, they don't only concern refugees in Libya, they concern all of us here in Europe too, because we are complicit in the violence that they are experiencing.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So tell us about your current activities, because I understand even later on today there is a film screening going on, and you guys are like sort of protest tour that, David has been traveling around within Europe, joining several protests. Last week is the anti-racism week. You guys also did some protests and different things on it. Tell us your current activities. What are you guys currently up to?
So after the big centralized action in Geneva last December, we are now currently planning the next centralized action. In January 10th, that was the anniversary of the day that, so 1 year before, January 10, 2022, the protest camp of refugees in Libya in Tripoli was dismantled, violently dismantled. And so in remembrance of this, and in remembrance also of the comrades that are still in prison, we did decentralized actions, meaning we were protesting in front of different UNHCR offices in Berlin, in Rome, in Brussels, and what else? I think there was another one. But so we have a transnational network, and we try to, wherever we are, organize actions like this to raise awareness about the situation there. And currently we're planning a next action which will be in summer in Brussels. So that's the next step. First we were in UNHCR head office in Geneva. Now we want to go to Brussels, to the seat of European, where all the decisions are made on European migration policies. This is the next big one. And tonight we have the film screening. So anyone who's interested, please check Solidarity with Refugees in Libya, social media, like you can find it on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find all the information. We will be screening a film by Sarah Kreta. It's a documentary about the detention centers, about this, how everything works, who profits from it, how is it financed, things like that. And also we will see a documentary from our friend Zeo. He's from Sudan, Sudanese artist. And he made a documentary about the situation in Calais, of the migrants in Calais. And that's a short documentary. And most of the people that he met there were basically coming from Libya. And so they survived the Libyan hell.
The victims.
Yeah, and then they try to get further to a place where they can live in freedom and dignity, and then they get to the next border violent border, yeah.
That's quite interesting. I will actually quote from a statement that you made sometimes last year, and it reads, "The European Union's border regime is complicit as a financer in torture, killings, and rape that take place every day in detention centers in Libya." You made mention of this statement during the recent protest. Why such a statement? Where did you base it on?
It's based on, I forgot the name, but there's this... Mokadem?
Mokadem.
Yeah, no, I wanted to refer to something else, but there's a specific fund that where the EU, like a North Africa fund or something, where you can see like how much money does the EU put into Libya, like not only into the so-called Libyan Coast Guard, equipping them and training them, but also, yeah, other security forces there. And what they're doing is, yeah, they detain migrants because Europe wants to keep them away, right? So they are responsible for this. They detain them, and then they see them as something they can profit from, so they torture them, they sell them, you know, like slaves, and they try to get ransoms from families in the diasporas, as I explained earlier. And this whole system is put in place by European policies. Otherwise, they would just pass through, right? But like this, they are being detained, and then they are being exploited and tortured, and this is all a consequence of these policies.
Yeah, speaking of the consequence of policies, we now look at protection. There was an article published at one of the German newspapers that the Solidarity Network was quoted, and it reads, "Protection you can afford. Successful passage to EU is a question of money." This is a statement described by UNHCR on the Libyan route taken by migrants to enter Europe. In which context would you put this statement?
Yeah, so this is Matthias Monroy. He wrote this article for ND, and is referring to a leaked document from a conference called Mokadem. It's a conference on migration issues that the EU is holding with northern African countries like Algeria, Morocco, Libya. And yeah, so it's basically about how to reduce migration to Europe, right? And UNHCR was also there. They gave a presentation, and they gave these numbers of how many people of which nationalities managed to cross the Mediterranean. And crossing the Mediterranean was a matter of yeah, how much money you have, if you can afford it, right? And so basically they are saying that protection, I don't really get it, but I think they're saying that the protection is something that you have to afford. So it's not only, so it's not
like you work for it.
Yeah, so it's not something that you have a right to based on your situation.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, it's like protection should be a right of every refugee or asylum seekers, but in this case now, UNHCR is described by saying it's a matter of who has money. But should we say this is in the other part of the continent, let's say in Libya, because in Europe, I'm not sure such a thing would be described for asylum seekers, or is it general?
Yeah, I also think that, yeah, the statement is, I don't know, also very much dividing again and putting like hierarchies.
Classism and status of refugees again. Wow, interesting. I had wished that UNHCR would join us this conversation and would clear their part. However, we look forward to further discussions. Perhaps one time or one day we would have them joined. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this Mokadem conference and this document that was leaked. That was and the author of this document was Cochetel, so very someone from UNHCR. And in this presentation, there were also a lot of recommendations on basically making recommendations on how to reduce migration from Africa to Europe. And yeah, This is a bit surprising, I would say, the least. It's because they are supposed to protect refugees and asylum seekers, and instead they are now advising the EU on how to reduce migration.
Or even encouraging more refugees if they could afford it.
Yeah.
Because as a potential migrant, if I should read this statement, I'll be like, oh, okay, then I need to find money and go to Libya. I will pay money and I'll be protected. This is what translates to me as a potential migrant. Yeah. So I think UNHCR, as the UN refugee agency body, has a huge responsibility in this. However, before we just start the show, we were chatting, and then it comes to meaningful refugee participation, and then you were like, refugees actually should more be included on the table of discussions than being doing that on their behalf. This is what so many refugee-led organizations and migrants are really fighting for. You know, I think the UN Refugee Agency, this is also a quote that the interview statement read. It says, the UN agency tend to speak about people on the move instead of amplifying their voices. How could the UN agency amplify people on the move, their voices?
Yeah, I think they should invite them more to, I mean, of course, what they do, they have field officers, right, UNHCR, and they send them to the camps and they speak with the people, but like more on a level where it's about decision-making when it comes to certain policies concerning refugees. They should invite more self-organized refugee organizations. We don't see that so much. Refugees in Libya is a self-organized refugee organization which has been around for 1 year, but so far we didn't hear a public endorsement or really appreciation as like equal partners from the side of UNHCR. We didn't see that yet, but we're hoping for it, because I think it's difficult to speak about refugees when you're not really speaking to them, right?
Yeah, it's like nothing about us without us. It's always a big question of speaking for and about refugees without them. I read that you guys also have a hotline, a WhatsApp line that refugees in Libya could reach out to for their problems to be solved, or I don't know, support them. Tell us a bit about this hotline.
Yeah, so our comrade Yambio David, he is the one who's actually running this on his own at the moment. It's a 24-hour help hotline, support hotline, where people that are currently in Libya, that are experiencing all kind of issues and they need support, they need medical aid, they are not getting any help from UNHCR or other organizations, so they reach out. And what Yambio does is he's trying to refer them to certain, trying to call certain organizations that might be able to help, but also we have people on the ground. I mean, the protest was smashed, right? That was in January 10th of last year. But the resistance, it continues. And we still see once in a while smaller protests inside the detention camps or in front of UNHCR office, not as big as the initial protests were, but we still see this continued resistance. And the resistance is also something we see in the radical solidarity that they provide support for survivors of these torture camps that are just kicked out on the street. If they cannot use them anymore, if they cannot exploit them anymore, they just leave them in the street. So refugees in Libya, they try to provide medical support, housing, temporary housing, and food and things like that until they get up on their feet. So they are constantly doing this kind of support. Yeah.
Apropos ready to support, to conclude on that, if you are to say one statement or to talk to UNHCR in regards to achieving your objective on protection and so on, I mean your demands, what would this be?
This is a difficult question if it's just one thing to say.
Okay, just summarize it.
But I'm thinking maybe they should close their office in UNHCR. Libya should close their office maybe, because if you are not able to provide the protection, then you shouldn't be there. And I think it's just there so you can use it as an alibi, but it's not true. They are not providing the protection that they should, so they should just close their office. I think everyone would be better off. But this is my personal opinion.
I think everyone would be better off in Libya if the UNHCR Libya office is closed. However, I think there could be more of discussion to it. Zum Glück, wir haben geschafft, der Yambio ins Studio zu haben. Der ist leider so ein bisschen spät gekommen. Wir haben eigentlich viel über das Thema Gestrandet in Libyen, Kampf der Geflüchteten gesprochen. Und David ist einer der Mitbegründer. Yambio David ist Menschenrechtsaktivist. Er stammt aus dem Südsudan und wohnt derzeit in Italien. Er hat auf seiner Flucht lange Zeit in Libyen verbracht, ist Überlebender der dortigen Folterlager und einer der Mitbegründer und Sprecher der selbstorganisierten Protestbewegung Refugees in Libyen. Ende 2022 hat er die Unfair-Kampagne mit initiiert, die aus dem solidarischen Bündnis Solidarity with Refugees in Libya entstanden ist. Unfortunately, we have you joined late due to some circumstances. We will talk about this, why you joining us late. But first, we talk about many issues. I will just quote from one of the statements that you made last year in front of the UNHCR office. That was, I am here representing the many refugees locked in camps and as well those that are unfairly treated by UNHCR. You were a victim of this. You had lived in Libya so many years before making up to Libya. Tell us your experience in Libya. How was life there?
I think the experience in Libya, if we are to talk about it, television alone is not enough to even be able to feel the pain that a person, a human being has to go through. In Libya, at first, upon my arrival, I'm seen like nobody because for the common people, I am an invader coming to Libya to invade their country. And to the smugglers, I'm a banknote that they can sell and multiply, they can exploit and make money out of this. And to the politicians, I'm a token that they can put on the table as a means of bargain with the European authorities for different individual interests. And to the militias, I'm seen as a hidden workforce that they can only put to war front to fight as a shield whenever there is conflict. And with this human rights violation that I had to face, I tried to cross the sea and I couldn't succeed. Reaching the Italian shores, I was sent back again to Libya where these human rights violations are inflicted upon us, and I had to live with in different circles of violence that I can not be able to project even to a person, that they can be able to understand this particular feeling, that my fundamental human rights are being taken away from me by people who make policies trying to criminalize migration, and they do it on paper, but in real life it has a very dire consequence and dire effect on our life.
Apropos criminalizing migration, I mean, trying to put it on paper that everything is okay when everything is really not okay. There is a statement by UNHCR that says, like, protection actually costs money, is about who has the money. As a potential migrant, if you heard the statement, what comes to your mind? What would you think?
I think after the UNHCR released this statement, it's been... I haven't been able to process why will such a UN agency, which is supposed to speak for the refugees, make such a comment, which is not true, because there are people, those who have money, those who doesn't have money, they are not recognized after all. So it depends on however they try to cross, but this has nothing to do with the money. This is an absurd comment from the UNHCR, and it's unacceptable that money can save life in Libya. It doesn't. It doesn't.
It doesn't. Why are you in Germany?
I've been here for the past 1 week. I was doing a tour on this week against racism. I was going in different places to speak about the racism that we face as the people on the move, in general, refugees, asylum seekers, and immigrants, whatever the name that have been given to us. So I traveled around different cities in Stuttgart, in Freiburg, and Karlsruhe, including Frankfurt, to speak to people about the experience that we face even before arriving in Germany, and the current situation that people face in the streets of Germany and in the asylum process that we are seeing here today in Germany.
Apropos racism, this morning something happened which delays you to actually join us talk about your work and your solidarity network. On the way, you told us that you were arrested by the police, stripped off because of a ticket. Tell us what happened, because it's a anti-racism week, and what happened to you, to be quite honest, been living here for quite a while now, but I've never heard of this, and this is not the way it's done usually. Tell us what happened exactly.
Well, in the morning, I left the house to go to collect my lost properties that I lost in the train yesterday. As I woke up, I took the train from Wedding, and I had to change the train in Alexandra Place. And once I arrived there, I was looking to change the train, and a bunch of police were there, and they approached me and they say, ticket. I immediately pulled out my ticket and I showed it to them. So they told me, no, it's not stamped. I told them, well, I forgot to do that. And they pulled me aside. There were a couple of people that got stopped because of ticket, but they left. These people, they were light-skinned, they were not like mine.
Wow.
And after having discussed with me, I told them, yes, I forgot to stamp it. But then they told me to follow them. I followed them. But once I followed them, I realized that there was this box, like a cell, locked, and they opened it and they wanted to take me inside. I told them to wait, to explain to me what is happening, why are they taking me away. They said they have to search me. I told them clearly that I do not consent to this search, because I wasn't caught under any crime. I was caught because of a stamp, and I admitted that, and they should issue whatever it is that I have to abide by the law. So they were already trying to round me, and I took out my phone trying to record the scene, explaining when I started to record. I was explaining that I started my trip from here, and I arrived here. I have been stopped by the police, and this is what is happening. And then they called this as I was resisting, and I was fighting them. When I turned, I was already down on the ground with 7 people on me.
Wow.
All other lady who was from Portugal was shouting that they should stop, and people shouted at this police, but there were a bunch of them, some on my neck, some on my, as you can see, there are wounds on my body. Even some blood came out of my ear because this guy was pressing on my neck. Afterwards, after they handcuffed me, they took me up outside, and from there they took several fingerprints, and they called a different police unit, and they took me to another police station where I was stripped naked. They told me, I asked them, what am I being searched for?
For what
not
crime?
Under any alcohol influence or any drug. I was stopped because 1, 2, 3, which I admit that I forgot to stamp the ticket. They told me I have to abide by the law, and I told them, before I do this, I would like to call my lawyer. They said, no, you will call your lawyer later on. And then they had to take off all my clothes, and afterward, they started searching me, and after taking away all my property, they brought me this black pant, which they told me to put on. After I put on, a minute later, I realized that there were things eating me, some bed bugs were already sucking my blood. And when I looked, I saw a couple of them, moving in and out. And after 3 hours, they came to me and say, okay, now you have to do the fingerprint, and the video that you recorded, you must delete this. They subdued me to delete the scenes that I recorded.
Were you able to already share this video before
I
deleting?
couldn't share this video. I was under brutality and
They seized your phone.
Yes, so they seized my phone and they forced me to...
And the scene, the passerbys, were any videos recorded?
Well, I'm not sure, but after this lady who was from Portugal, she was also interrogated because she was brought and they asked her why she was recording the video.
Wow.
They were using interpreter to speak to her. I'm quite sure she wasn't speaking German, as did I, but I understood the situation because I saw her shouting at the police to stop what they were doing when 7 men were on me, and I believe that they even asked her to delete what was in her phone before she could go.
I hope she was able to share it so that the world would see how brutal sometimes the German police could be, how wicked the police or the laws could be when this is purely racism because, like I said, I've been here quite a while, and what I understand, if you don't have a ticket, especially you have a ticket, you didn't stamp it, you could easily be walked out to stamp it, or you paid €60 fine, which is called straffer. But being arrested and stripped naked, and it was not just you, there were other people as well, and they were let go, they were all gone. Like you said, perhaps it's because of your skin color. What steps are we looking forward to? Because you're already fighting against racism and talking about racism, and here you are facing racism.
I think for me, I don't take this as a bad step in my continuation to fight for recognition. I find this as a motivation that if I didn't experience this in Europe, now I have experienced it. I've experienced this in so many countries, in Libya, in different Arab countries. Now here in Europe that I have to face this. What if the person in my situation was not able to withstand the pain and the person died out because 7 men, 2 people on my neck, and other one trying to put my arm back because I'm trying to have my phone, which they were trying to seize. And you can see wound all over my body, here in my neck and in my ear. So I think it motivates me to keep on fighting, to question the institution and to question the system in which we call ourselves democracy, the democratic system. And when we are questioning human rights, with the people, with the refugees, we have never seen this. We have never seen any human right. We have never seen any recognition. It's a particular recognition for a set of people with light skin, with different background. And I feel this as unacceptable. It doesn't make me to stop. I will continue to do this fight, to speak to people, to tell them in their face that whoever is listening to me, this is not right as a human person, as a human being.
You were born in Germany, of course, with a migration background. Have you seen such a thing, or what's your take on this as a solidarity group fighting? One of your causes fighting against racism, and here is one of your members who faced this in Germany, who doesn't live here.
I feel responsible for this because I feel like I should have been with him because he's visiting us, right? And he shouldn't have to experience this. Anyone shouldn't have to experience this. But I think it's even worse if you are in a foreign country, you don't speak the language, you don't know what's going on around you, and to be confronted with this violence. But I'm not surprised at all. You know, also it's not, maybe 1 year ago, a black person who was on the train who hadn't stamped his ticket either, and then he was attacked and they broke his ribs and he had to go undergo surgery, and it's really bad. So this is not the first time that we see this kind of violence, so it doesn't surprise me, especially not from the police, because we live in Germany, and the police is definitely racist, and they proved it again. And but we will definitely not just swallow this down. We will collect all the evidence that we have and get consultation and reach out to get support to bring these people to justice, because this is unacceptable, of course.
This is obviously unacceptable. Justice must be served. We live in a democratic country, as they said. So democracy also includes that people's rights are respected and not violated. Someone's skin color should not deteriorate the person to go through such racial violent attacks and so on. That's all we have for you on Nyimas Bantaba. My name is Nyima Jadama. With me in the studio today, I had Yambio and Azeb from the Solidarity Group Refugees in Libya, talking about their work and as well the issues happening right now in Libya. Refugees being stranded there, the role of the UN agency, that is the UNHCR, what are they doing towards the protection and the right of refugees there? Do join us next time for another episode of Nyimas Bantaba. That's all we have for you. Vielen Dank, das war's von uns, von unserer heutigen Sendung. Wir haben über das Thema Gestrandet und Libyen, Kampf der Geflüchteten in Libyen. Meine Gäste war Azeb und David, der heute Morgen vor unserer Sendung ein Rassier- oder Rassismuserfahrung gehabt haben. Vielen Dank und einen schönen Tag von mir.